Me, it's the story that I tell that hurts people so bad.
Right.
And they don't understand how to channel the energy that they're feeling when I tell them things that are true.
Give an example.
Like for example, one young girl came in here, she's throwing rocks at the west side and you all are so bad over here and this and that. And I said, baby, do you know how far we've come? I said, I'm free for the first time in my life. I was born on a slave plantation. What? You weren't born on a plantation? And then she come to find out later on, after her mother passed away, her aunt told her that they were born on a plantation. And she couldn't believe that she had been a descendant of a slave. I said, that's why you're in the condition that you're in, baby. I said, add to it. That's not all the reason. We do some stupid stuff too, but the root cause of it is where you came from. I am Katherine Duncan Reed. I grew up on a plantation in Snow Lake, Arkansas. Snow Lake, Cambridge, Ratio, Elaine, and Helena. Now you may know Elaine because of the Elaine massacre, and Helena has been one of the sites of the Civil War. So I grew up on a former slave plantation in Arkansas. I grew up as a happy child, surrounded by fish. My mother went fishing every day. I took care of the chickens, milked the cows, chased rabbits, picked berries. So that was my early childhood. And then picking cotton, chopping cotton. I worked at the cotton gin with my mother because she's the one who worked in the cotton gin office. And basically took care of my younger siblings. There were 12 children born in our family. And so I took care of the ones that were younger than me. And yeah, so that was, my parents moved from the plantation when I was 14 years old. We went to Boston, Massachusetts, Dorchester, Roxbury, Massachusetts, and where I went to junior high and then high school. And from there, I moved to Las Vegas, and here I am now. I was born on August 14th, 1955. We moved from the plantation in 1969. That's when we were finally on free land, 1969. So, from when I was very young, the word Moulin Rouge would always resonate with me whenever I heard it. I didn't know why. I was encouraged to go to Spain, which had a trip to France and to Morocco in Africa. And while I was in France, something told, I just remembered, you have to see the Moulin Rouge. And I didn't know why, but I had the burning in my spirit. So I went to the Moulin Rouge, and I was 15 years old, mind you, in France at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. Mm-hmm. And I had never seen such a sight in my life. There were like naked women, but they weren't naked. They jumped in this big dolphin pool, mm-hmm. and they would swim around, and then the dolphin undressed them. I was like, naked people on stage, that was just totally foreign to me. I could not believe it, so I was taken back. And then, of course, I was with a group of teenagers, and I learned how to smoke cigarettes and drink beer. I think it was beer. We're drinking something, whatever it was, sangria in Spain. So that was my introduction to adulthood at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. So when I opened the travel agency, I knew there was a demand for to satisfy black tourists. So I started working on doing a Black History tour, and I thought it was going to be blockbuster Black History tour in Las Vegas. And they said, "Well, why didn't you stop at the Moulin Rouge?" And I was like, "Huh? What do you mean stop at Moulin Rouge?" And I was like, I don't know why I didn't stop there. I just didn't feel like it was important. And then I think it was Dr. Green from CSN said, your tour is excellent, but if you include the Moulin Rouge, it'll be spectacular. So I went back to do my research on Moulin Rouge, and when I stepped into the building, chills went through my whole body. I had such an experience there that I don't know how to explain, but it was as if I had been there before and knew, where I could understand where everything happened in the building, how it worked. It was like I was at one with the building, and I couldn't shake the experience. And so naturally, I went ahead and had the Moulin Rouge listed with a group of other people, on the National Register of Historic Places to be protected as a historic landmark because of the significance it had played in our history. So I came to figure out, I think I got it figured out, why the experience. Moulin Rouge opened in May of 1955, and I was born in August of 1955, which means my mother was carrying me in her womb when the Moulin Rouge opened, and she had to have seen the cover of the Life magazine showing these beautiful black women on the cover of Life magazine for the first time, probably in American history. And I can imagine the sense of pride she must have felt having been on a slave plantation all of her life. I could see it happens again. I shouldn't be allowed to cut. I just reckon that the reason why I had such an affinity to Moulin Rouge is when I realized that my mother was pregnant with me when the Moulin Rouge opened, and it was on the cover of Life magazine. So I can just imagine what her experience would be growing up on a slave plantation and finally seeing a Life magazine with black people on the cover, all these amazing black women dancers, and just to know that there was an interracial, integrated hotel casino in Las Vegas. That had to be a shock for her, coming from a segregated society. I got a visit from a young lady who represented the Moulin Rouge in France. And she told me that I guess the owners at that time were, getting up in age, and they wanted to protect their name, and the corporation wanted to protect its name because it seems every time we try to restore the Moulin Rouge or bring it back to life, something tragic would happen to it. Just since I worked on the project, from the first day I stepped in there, I've seen it burn at so many fires. The biggest fire was in 2003, and then it just continued to burn and be attacked and be torn down until it's finally totally gone. She was saying that the Moulin Rouge had gotten such a bad name in Las Vegas, it was given the Moulin Rouge in Paris a bad name. So they came over to protect their trademark and their good name. And she told me that the country of France was instrumental in the Moulin Rouge in Paris helping the Moulin Rouge Las Vegas, and France was really trying to help race relations in Las Vegas in America. And they thought by opening a multiracial and supporting a multiracial hotel casino, they would really help race relations in America. And they were sad because France never got proper thanks for doing that. And I said, well, no one wanted integration from the other side. That's why no one thanked France for it. But yeah, that's part of the history of the Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge in Paris had black entertainers from before the 1900s. So they brought over some memorabilia, and which I donated to the Walker African American Museum so that it would always be protected. So yeah, historic West Side is not like in other cities across America that were lived in by black people during segregation. For people who don't know, prior to the 1960s, and still in some cities today, America is segregated based on your color of your skin. So it wasn't until the Civil Rights Movement and in the 60s, through the work of people like, as a result of like the Medgar Evers murder and Emmett Till, and then Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and they all fought for civil rights. And then there was legislation passed in 1964, I believe, when the Civil Rights Act came out, giving black people the right to move freely as citizens in the country. So the historic West Side is just one of those cities in America where black people lived because they couldn't live anyplace else because it was illegal or outlawed, banned. It was just how America was at the time, and still is in a lot of areas. So Harrison House was before Moulin Rouge.
Right.
Remember, America was segregated by skin color, and there were people coming to Las Vegas who either they were traveling through or they were coming for certain jobs. But mainly what Las Vegas was famous for was entertainment. And it always had the best entertainment. Las Vegas always showcased the best entertainment. And as you know, our black people, African Americans as we call them today, Negroes, we have to go through that too, or some of the, I will say some are the best entertainers in the world. So Las Vegas had the Sammy Davis Jr.'s and the Nat King Coles, the Pearl Baileys, the Billy Ecksteins. And they had to live someplace, and they couldn't live on the Las Vegas Strip, so they had to have a place to live. And Mrs. Geneva Harrison, who Harrison House is named for, operated an upscale guest house for people who could afford to live in, there was some black people that had some money, so she catered to that clientele. So that's how the Harrison House gained its fame, for being the home for famous entertainers who worked in Las Vegas but couldn't play in Las Vegas. Okay, so I got here in 1977. So when I came, it seems as though every hotel on the Las Vegas Strip had a black headliner. I can remember the Temptations, the Fifth Dimensions, George Wallace, Gladys Knight. Everybody had a marquee, and I was like, this is the best place in the world to be black. I couldn't believe it. I loved it. And on the West Side, it was booming. There were at least 5 nightclubs I know of that, because on one night I could go to all 5. Seemed like we made a circuit going to all the clubs. And Moulin Rouge was one of them. So we had, and then because Moulin Rouge reopened as a nightclub, not as a hotel casino, but as a nightclub. So there was the Moulin Rouge, the Seven Seas, People's Choice. There was a club on Martin Luther King and Cary. I forget the name. The Colony Club. And then there was the Club 30-something. But there was a beauty supply store on Jackson Avenue, or a party store. So there was a lot more economy. I can remember there was a strip mall on Owens where the Edmond Town Center is. There was a strip mall there, and there was a music store, and we had a Hamburger Heaven was over here. So that was when I got here in 77. But listening to people who are maybe 10, 20 years older than me, they talk about a time when there were casinos all along Jackson Avenue. The El Morocco Club, the Louisiana Club, the Cotton Club. These clubs were all lined the streets of Jackson Avenue, and they said it was more fun on Jackson Street than it was on the Las Vegas Strip. The Harrison House was operating as a guest house along with all the other establishments on the West Side. And then in 1955, the Moulin Rouge opened as an elaborate resort hotel casino with a big swimming pool, palm trees, a theater, a bowling alley. I believe it had a bowling alley. But it only was open for 6 months. And during that period, it opened in June of 1955. No, it opened in May of 1955. By June of 1955, it was on the cover of Life magazine. And then by October, the sheriff had locked the doors and closed down that whole economy. And I often wonder why the black people didn't protest at the time, and why there wasn't some type of, chaos. But I guess there comes a time when so much happens to you so often, you just come to expect it. We don't know why they shut it down, except I can imagine when you had white people coming into the black community, because it was illegal for blacks and whites to fraternize in public. And you had white women coming over. Remember, Joe Louis was the head of the Moulin Rouge, heavyweight champion of the world. So I can just imagine all the white women coming and trying to be with the black sports celebrities, because they also had boxing matches over there too. That wasn't going to be tolerated by the establishment. As a matter of fact, I hear people like Catherine Joseph would tell me that the white employees on the strip were told if they came over here they would lose their jobs. And the people who sold meat and alcohol to the Moulin Rouge, they were told if you sell to them, we're going to stop buying from you. So I saw it as a hate crime, and I still say this, a hate crime. Harrison House was one of those guest houses or boarding houses on the west side during segregation. It had been operating from 1940 up to probably the 1960s when it went into private ownership. When I realized that we had lost the Moulin Rouge, I let go. But then I was sitting on the Arts Commission for the city of Las Vegas, and some people came to us that were working on a pioneer trail, and they were going to designate the important historic landmarks in Las Vegas on this pioneer trail. And my job was just to help pick out the colors of the banner. But it brought Harrison House to my attention, but I didn't do anything about it. It wasn't until later on, when I was with the Black Historical Society, the Las Vegas Black Historical Society. We had created that by the time. So a lot of us got together as the Black Historical Society, and we were going to save this important landmark. It had to be saved. And I had $1,000 already invested I was going to lose, so now I'm on the hook. So I went to my company, and I was in partnership with my son. I said, I want to buy this house on the west side. Mama, you crazy? Yeah, I'm crazy. But I want to buy this house. He said, well, that's all the money you got coming. I go, then I'll take it all. I'm taking all the money that's for my life savings, and I bought the house. And I haven't looked back. And so finally, Dr. Christine Clark from UNLV gave us a conversation. She told us that what's going on in our community, the drugs, the prostitution, the homeless, were not the problems, they were symptoms of a bigger problem. She said, your neighborhood is suffering from white supremacy and racism. So we had to pause and figure out how to overcome the real problem. So that took me to workshops and sessions, and I met the Universal Peace Federation, who was founded by Dr. Reverend Song Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon. And after I read their story and how they dealt with racism in America, I felt like I had now a vehicle to overcome those challenges. But I was so surprised when they said the way to end racism is through interracial marriage. I said, do they know that this is America? And they're telling us to marry interracially? Don't they know that was just made legal, 1957, and America hasn't necessarily grasped the, white people. You tell a white person you need to go out and marry a black person, that's not flying in America. I mean, the young people are doing it, but not at their parents' urging. But the process of overcoming racism is what helped me to move forward. Understanding that no one alive today created racism. It's a system that we all inherited. So we have to deal with the ancestors, spirits, and our inheritance. And if we can first learn to heal ourselves, because we're suffering from a lot of self-hatred. We do things to ourselves that are detrimental. We have to get one with ourselves, with our higher spirit, before we can even have good marriages and good relationships. And that was all new conversation for me. I had never heard anybody speak along those lines. And so then I realized, instead of trying to fix the community and fix other people, I had to first fix myself. Because my personal life was in shambles, really out of control. And I realized I had to clean all of that up and then have a successful partner who shared the same goals and dreams as I did before I could even work on restoring the Harrison house. I had to restore my family. So I spent a lot of time reconnecting with my family, with my sisters, my brothers, getting to know them better, and having a foundation of substance that I could walk out on now to do a restoration project. So now when I deal with people from other cultures and races, I can see them differently because I'm different. I'm not the same person I was before I understood about the power of God. And being able to understand God's will for us and God's promise to us, and how to stand on that as a way to have faith in what you're doing, and to be able to forgive people for what their ancestors did to my ancestors was a big, huge process. So that was my wake-up moment, that dealing with racism meant dealing with my own isms, so that I could learn to communicate with other people in a way that wasn't frightening to them. Because I can remember times I was the angry black woman going down the city hall, rah, 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 you, and I realized it had to start with me. And so now I believe that because I am on a more stable foundation, thanks to my good husband, Reverend Reed, and he shares the same spirit that I do, I believe, and he allows these type of activities to go on, in the home, and he ministers to the people who come here about the value of marriage and family and abstinence until marriage. Those are all the things that we were missing, that weren't necessarily pounded into us as children. So we were wilding out, and now we're getting it back together, because when the university came back to us and said, while racism is one of the reason your inappropriate sexual activity is what's bringing you the most unrest right now. The domestic violence, the children acting out in school is because of our family structures. So we get that together, then we can begin to mend our homes and then our neighbors' homes, and then become a more solid community. Hey, I was appointed to the Nonviolence Commission by Dr. Moulin Rouge. We realized that in order to really get to the crux of nonviolence, it had to be a movement that comes from the people who are experiencing the most violence themselves. So we know that people who are closest to the problem will come up with the best solutions and faster. So since we're closest to the problem, we're able to, as a nonviolence commission now, go into cities across America. We're going into cities across America, encouraging 3 clergy leaders to unite with the mayor or the politicians in their city to form nonviolence coalitions in every city as a way to bring in resources, information, and programming to help people understand the root causes of violence and how to overcome them. And to get the attention of the government, we've asked that April 4th, which is the day Dr. King was assassinated, be recognized as a day of nonviolence in America. So we're asking every mayor to proclaim April 4th a day of nonviolence in their city, so we can start the programming around that. One of the families that came here, it was a grandmother, a mother, and the grandchild. The grandchild was in college, and she was mad in hell at her mother because her mother didn't tell her about race relations. And the grandmother said, like, I told you so. I told you so. This mother had raised her black daughter up thinking that blue meant you were sad, you know, what all the colors meant, and never told her about her history here in America. So when this child got to college and ran into all this stuff, she ran home like, what the hell happened to me? Why don't I know this stuff? So the mother intentionally hid this child's history from her, thinking it was protecting her. And so we were able to bring that family back together, and so the mother ended up apologizing to the daughter for not teaching her her black history. And then the grandmother was finally relieved that she could pass on her legacy to her grandchild. And that one stood out for me. Okay, so these are U.S. military veterans who were fighting homelessness themselves, actually put together the Harrison House charity so that no African American U.S. military veteran would ever be homeless. And I mean, we would take in any veteran, but if a black person came to the door and they were a veteran, we obligated ourselves to give them a place to stay and help them get to their next level. And we were working then with the Key Foundation, which was a veterans organization, and they helped us put together our nonprofit. And our nonprofit's calls for us to take care of military veterans, restore the Harrison House, and rebuild the community. The purpose of the Harrison House today is become an amazing tourism attraction that puts a lot of people to work, where we serve amazing coffee and teas and are able to come in as a community and share and network. It's like the nucleus of the future community development. And pretty soon you'll see tour buses, and excitement, and it'll be a place where people will be clamoring to come.